Chiefs Kingdom, welcome into the AP breakdown. Welcome back, I should say, to the AP breakdown. Had a little bit of a holiday break as we get into the postseason around here. That's the real season here in Chiefs Kingdom. I am Ron Kopp Jr., the lead analyst at arrowheadpride.com. With me, as always, is Caleb James at CJ Scoobs on Twitter. We're always looking at these Chiefs, always looking back at games, looking forward to games, and no better time to do it now, Caleb. We are at the brink of the postseason. Wild card weekend this weekend. Just a lot of good football this week. We got college football semifinals too. I don't know, Caleb, how you feeling with the bye week coming up?
Great time of year for football, and I am especially excited to sit around this weekend and not have to stress too much, but we'll definitely be paying pretty close attention to those AFC matchups. Ron, before we get into it, do you want to talk at all about those matchups we have for the AFC and really just the playoffs in general?
Yeah, for sure. Because, I mean, there's going to be some good ones. There's some big spreads this weekend, but I don't know if those spreads will hold. We do have Saturday 3:30 Chargers at Texans. I think that's a good game. That's going to be a close game. Got Steelers Ravens Saturday night. Steelers at Ravens. Steelers they have their number a little bit sometimes, so that'll be an interesting one. It's like an 8.5, 9.5 point game right now. I think 10 points maybe even in the gambling line, and then Denver at Buffalo. I don't know, Caleb. Any upsets that any of those games where you really feel like an upset's brewing?
I guess you could say the Chargers, but that's not really an upset.
Right.
That's just a seeding upset. Even though I do think that CJ Stroud is talented enough to go in there and win a shootout. I think even though he's had a down season, people forget how good he is. I think if you saw the Chiefs and Texans play at Arrowhead, you kind of saw that because he played a phenomenal game. He showed up when his team needed him the most. So with a talented guy like that, you can't keep him out. That game will really, I think, honestly be pretty interesting, a little bit more than people think. And then just the other two, I mean, taking a look, Steelers and Baltimore, that's going to be close. You just know Mike Tomlin's going to find a way to keep it close. They're going to have a plan for Lamar and Derrick Henry and just everything the Ravens can do. But I do think the Ravens get it done, though it will be interesting to see kind of what the Steelers offense comes in and does. They've kind of had like a few down weeks. They've kind of looked bad. It'll be interesting to see how Russ responds out there. I don't know though if they're going to have what it takes on that side of the ball to really make an impact in the playoffs.
Yeah, they
And then,
feel like a one and done team, right? Pittsburgh, but at the same time, those divisional games, that's why I kind of like that Baltimore got that draw because I think even if Baltimore does handle that business, they're going to be the Pittsburgh's going to make them earn every inch of that win, and there could be an upset. I don't know. I think that's the one game where I think there could be a little funny business there. I think the other two games, I agree with you. Chargers. I don't know. I mean, do you think the Bills take care at home? I feel like they probably do.
they should, but if there's a team with the athletes along their defensive line to be able to kind of take away what makes
Yeah.
Josh Allen special, it's the Denver Broncos. We've seen this in their matchup with the Chiefs this year already. You know, we know how good their defensive line is. But I mean, in the Bills and Broncos, they are pretty similarly built teams. Like they have similar guys. I think there's going to be a lot more offense in that game than people are anticipating. Just because the Bills' secondary has been fine this year, but I think that maybe like Cortland Sutton goes in there, takes advantage of some of their defensive backs here just a little bit. So that'd be interesting, though. I'm sure Buffalo will get it done, but I think that game's going to be a little closer than people think.
No, you make a good point on Denver's defense, and Buffalo's defense has definitely been a little, holy and definitely not as stout as it has been at certain times. So I don't know, Bo Nix going into Buffalo, that would be a one heck of a performance there. But yeah, I think the football world is probably we're probably going to get to that Ravens Steelers or Ravens Bills matchup, excuse me, in the divisional round. But I do agree with you. I think the Chargers are going to be coming into Arrowhead next week if those things hold up. And man, I don't know. Playing a team three times that's always tough. But if there's any team that I feel like it's an advantage for, it's the Chiefs. I think seeing playing the same team three times, I would think that's an advantage for Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, especially coming off a bye. But we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. We got great football to watch this weekend. Hopefully some good games. Again, from the college football semifinal too. We'll have that tomorrow night. But tonight, we need to talk about the Chiefs and talk about what the biggest question mark is heading into the postseason. And I don't think there's any debate on what that is. I think it's really just up front, the offensive line, specifically left tackle. But I think it could even be left tackle and left guard, kind of, looking at both of those positions and seeing who the two best players are for them to, go into the postseason. So I think tonight we should start with looking at that left tackle spot. I did look at DJ Humphries, and you did too. We both looked at his game from Denver, and I think neither of us were super impressed with what he had going on against the Denver Broncos. Again, he did start for the entirety of this game against the Broncos pass rush that was full go. He was facing Nick Bonito, he was facing a lot of these guys. But to start off here, I just pointed out two kind of bad reps from DJ Humphries. And I think, this second rep is a really good move by Nick Bonito. Ghost move. A lot of left tackles are going to be able to handle that. And Nick Bonito is one of the top candidates for Defensive Player of the Year for a reason this season. But that's not Nick Bonito on the first rep. And I think what I notice on these plays is Humphries coming out, wanting to land that punch, wanting to bring that contact, but just his feet not necessarily being there to be with him, right? To kind of reset, once he lands that punch, or if he does get his hand swiped away, at least he's still in front. At least he still has position, right? Or maybe has, just a little bit of ability to still stay in front and not just get blown by like these two plays. Again, this Nick Bonito one's really hard, but still, I think just not getting back there, right? Just not having the foot speed to get back there. I think that's something that you saw in his first start too, against the Chargers, where there was a few plays where it just felt like he was just not getting up the arc fast enough to really match some of the speed that he could be seeing coming off the edge. So I don't know, Caleb, let me ask you, am I off on that? Is this just a great move by Nick Bonito, and maybe I shouldn't even be nitpicking this one too much? What do you think about his ability to protect the edge?
I would nitpick, man, because anytime you just give up a soft edge like that, you got to be criticized a little bit. It's just like he's getting into his, he's getting there. His hips are kind of hinging, which, I mean, he's a multi-year veteran in the league. Like, there's only so much you're going to be able to coach out of him at this point. He just looks slow. Like, you take a look at him driving off that right foot. He goes out there and looks slow. He looks like he's a step behind. And you can't do that against guys that rely on speed like that. And ironically, a pass rusher like Nick Bonito is a guy that, like, Joe Thuney would probably have a good game against, because he can match quickness for quickness. Humphrey trying to beat him with size and length by trying to get that stab off quick there with that one hand. But he just doesn't quite, it's not all moving at once. He's not moving all together. And you guys see that frustration on him at the end. It's like footwork, and then throw the stab, but it wasn't like that smooth transition where it's all together.
Right. It's not all together. And I think that's something that Joe Thuney, when you watch him patrol that left side, you see that he is just, and it's why he's such an elite, all pro guard. He just has this footwork that not only gets him out of his stance quickly and gets him into good position quickly, but like you kind of said, he has the mobility to mirror up the arc a little more, kind of stay engaged throughout the rush. Even when maybe he's lost the leverage a little bit, at least he can stay engaged, keep his arms on him, keep those feet moving, and at least get the pass rusher away from Mahomes, whether it's, behind him. You're just going to see that on a few of these plays here where, he just has kind of that ability, to keep his feet with him as he's punching, right? Kind of, again, just that guard footwork a little bit, although obviously you don't have that specific footwork when you're at guard, when you're working around the edge like these. But even on like a play action pass like this, where he knows there's going to be a deep pocket. Yeah, no, Highsmith kind of gives it him angle, and Thuney just has the ability to keep that arm on him, right? Stay engaged, stay in contact, and kind of push him out to the backside of the pocket. Mahomes is able to step up. Those are the things I think Thuney kind of excels at a little more than Humphries, just kind of keeping stuff from getting into the back of the pocket quickly, or, beating the edge quickly. On this one, I even like how Herbig does swipe away at his hands, gets past him, but you see Thuney stay engaged, keep his hands on him, and give him a little shove at the end, right? Where even when he's going to the ground, he's still kind of pushing Herbig away from Mahomes' throwing platform. He's not necessarily giving it a clean shot at Mahomes. So, yeah, I think Thuney just kind of excels a little more when you're talking about speed around the edge.
And those are good pass rushers for the Steelers, like Alex Highsmith, Nick Herbig, Bond, all those guys, and then of course TJ Watt. Like that's a formidable pass rush. That's a defense built on their ability to rush the passer. And Thuney played one of his best games of the season. But it is just that being able to explode out of the stance, being able to stay square. And that's where like the man-to-man aspect of playing offensive line comes into play. Like you think about playing man-to-man against someone in basketball, it's kind of the similar concept to pass protection when you do take away like the fundamentals. And Thuney is able to do that because he is extremely quick out of his stance.
Right. And that's the thing. Like he is a really good guard, all pro guard. Like he has, he's just an overall great lineman. Like no matter where you're putting him on the field, he is just going to have that maybe elite hand placement, at least elite hand work, right? Where he's just fighting and he's not losing maybe as much. I mean, he's just a really good blocker in general. I mean, in today's NFL at guard, a lot of times you're getting those one-on-ones where you're just dropping back almost in a pass set and having to stay in front of these really, really dynamic interior rushers that you have now. So on these, you see DJ Humphries. This is where maybe he has the strength of a traditional left tackle that maybe Joe Thuney doesn't, where when he does kind of give up that inside shoulder and there is a little inside penetration, he has the ability to stay engaged, keep engaged, and kind of run him through the other side of the pocket, allow Wentz to reset, find another place to throw. Yes, this is a pressure. You don't want this, but that is where, Humphries has the strength, right? That Thuney maybe doesn't, where you're going to see here. Yeah. Benito sets him up well with speed to power, really sets him up going outside, then boom, transitions in. He's going to get called for holding on this, which I do get because his feet don't come with him, right? He tries to bring his feet with him. It is a little bit of a soft holding call. I think they probably could have kept the flag in their pocket here a little bit. But still, again, you're seeing that he's taken that inside rush. He's not allowing it to become just a free path to the quarterback. He's actually driving that rusher through the pocket past where the quarterback is throwing, giving the quarterback another chance to do something with the ball, even though he doesn't here.
And that's where a lot of the appeal came from for when they first picked up DJ Humphries, for him being the left tackle. He's not perfect. He's coming off injury, and he's an older guy, but he will have reps like that where he can – that's a 50-50 call. Maybe they call that sometimes. Maybe they don't. His hands were on the inside. He, hooked him a little bit there at the end when he's taking him down, but I still think that's 50-50. That happens in a lot of games, and they don't call it. But it was just like that initial ability to take away that inside and be able to kind of crash down on that stuff and, not just getting smoked quick. That is where the appeal of DJ Humphries came in at initially when he came to town.
Yeah, because getting beat quick inside can mean getting right into the quarterback's face. I mean, you see it here where Thuney, he's trying to punch with that inside hand. Defensive end just does a really good job of countering it with the swim inside, swiping away at that hand and getting over the top. But again, this is where Thuney as a guard, he just doesn't have the size, the length, kind of just the overall, girth, I guess, to kind of make up for that side, that space inside, where if he does get beat inside, he can kind of just, take him with him. Like you saw with Humphries, he just, being a guard, he just doesn't have that size and that strength maybe to really do that, where, yeah, if he does get beat inside like this, it can be a quick pressure, especially when that left guard is Mike Caliendo, who's going to be, fighting for his own life, in a lot of pass rushes, not necessarily thinking about helping his left tackle, because teams are obviously going to be attacking, I would say, that left side of the line, especially on the inside. Cameron Hayward had a really good time against Caliendo in that Pittsburgh game. So this is maybe the one thing with Thuney is yeah, he doesn't have that tackle size or that tackle range, I guess, on inside moves to just really plug stuff up when that kind of stuff happens. But at the same time, I say that when defensive ends do want to try to, convert speed to power and really try to go through him, he is a guard, and you see that elite ability to reset his feet and just stay in front. You're going to see it on these two pass rushes. Again, not pretty. These aren't going to be pretty necessarily. Thuney gets put on his butt on this first one, but you're seeing that he stays between the pass rusher and Mahomes. He keeps himself between them two. This one's a really good rep of it, where you see him really reset his feet after the initial engagement, and stay up, keep the edge rusher away from a clean path. That's where I think, of course, Humphries has that size and ability where he may not be giving up that same kind of penetration, but at the same time, I feel like, there may be a little more quick losses with Humphries just in general, because of, maybe the slow feet or just maybe trying to, get out there and getting set up with, with an inside move. I just feel like Thuney is going to be a little more solid, a little more reliable, just in general, kind of mirroring rushers, staying in front of them. Yeah, I showed you a couple losses, but those were two of the only times I could find where Thuney just straight up, lost at the point of attack in these last two starts. So I think that tells you, and this is where we can have this general conversation. I want Thuney at left tackle in the postseason. I just think the offense looked really good when he was in against the Steelers and Texans. And I just think when I kind of mentioned before, he's just an elite offensive lineman. And, just trust that guy to be the guy to protect against these edge rushers. He's been doing a fine job of it. You can only imagine maybe he only gets better at it as time, as he's gaining experience on the field, as he's kind of getting a feel for it after playing left guard for however long he has been. I think there's something to Thuney playing left tackle in the postseason. What is your thoughts on Humphries versus Thuney?
Well, the other thing with Humphries is he's been doing that for 10 years. Like, he knows that's a very natural movement. Thuney is still probably still at the point where he's trying to work out all the kinks that he's had for the last 8 years of being a guard and trying to adjust the tackle. That's something that he was just kind of thrown into. Obviously, in practice, he'll probably take a few reps to tackle here or there, but it's not like a full-time thing. So that's honestly one of the reasons why this rest the Chiefs have had is probably pretty good, because Thuney can get a little extra time to recover a little bit, kind of get himself into more of a mind to play tackle. I would say go with Thuney also, just because I'm a big believer in offensive line chemistry. And since Thuney has been at left tackle, the offense has looked extremely potent. And maybe that's because you have all your weapons back all of a sudden, and you're starting to open up the playbook just a little bit. And you get all these guys back that were out for so long. That's probably got a lot to do with it. But also, Andy Reid's always been a play the best 5 available guy. Yeah. TJ Humphries didn't look real good on Sunday, man. He still looked like he's got a ways to go to get back to where he needs to be. And he had some fine reps. He had some reps like that. But just overall, when you think about the team in general, DJ Humphries has been on this team for 6 weeks, something like that. He's played 2 games for the Chiefs. Joe Thuney will probably go into the Hall of Fame as a member of the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Where he's been playing his best football out of his career. I think if you could argue for any one offensive lineman in the NFL, just as far as technique and talent, he's got to be up there with the top 5 guys, because there's not a lot of guys who can go from playing all-pro guard to come out and playing tackle for you. There's a lot of guys that couldn't do it. They're not equipped to do it. I think we were talking about this last night, but there's a reason why Trey Smith doesn't go play tackle ever for the Chiefs, or why Quentin Nelson doesn't go play tackle for the Colts ever. They wouldn't be very good at it. Joe Thuney's an incredibly special athlete, and he just has, he has the intangibles, whether it's the knowledge of the game, the athleticism, and the fight and the grit that you need to be protecting. And I think going into the playoffs, you have to trust that. And also, Mike Caliendo, he's earned the right to be in that spot where he's at also. He's not just out there. He's had some successful reps also. He's not the best player in the world, but really with where they could be heading in the postseason, they're going to see some white boxes. Being able to design a run game you're not going to need just devastating blocks. You're going to need a couple of lanes to make a couple of cuts.
Yeah, well, that is a key point you just hit on, because I will admit that the Chiefs' run game is probably more effective if they do go back to Humphries at left tackle and they put Thuney at left guard. I can admit that, but I don't think that is what the focus should be in the postseason. I think the focus is keeping Mahomes upright and keeping him confident. I think the first thing you said there, the OL chemistry, it's not only just the offensive line, the 5 guys, it's Mahomes too, how good he feels or how much he feels confident and trusts what's going on in front of him. And there's just no question that 2 of his most confident, comfortable games were the last 2 where Thuney was playing left tackle. Even the Cleveland game, It wasn't the best, scoring output, but you could even see he was playing confidently in that game. And it bears reminding that, like Donovan Smith last year, if you remember, he was injured the last 5 games of the year and he came back for the postseason. Well, he had 12 starts with the team before that injury. DJ Humphries is coming back from an injury where he had 1 start and he didn't even finish that start. And now he's coming in. He'd be playing his 2nd career start with Mahomes in the postseason. So I think we're on the same page. And I do want to give, shout out to Anonymous Mango, who mentions that the general consensus I've seen online is Humphries should start. And it does feel like it's a 50-50 split. I feel like I'm seeing kind of a heavy opinion on both sides where, Humphries is the veteran, right? And he's healthy now. And Thuney back at left guard, maybe that is your best 5 instead of Caliendo, so I don't know, Caleb, we're sitting here. I think we both are thinking Thuney. But I think, if they do go Humphries, it just tells you that they feel really good about his health, I would say, right? I mean, if that's what if we get to next week and Andy Reid says DJ Humphries is for sure the left tackle, Thuney's back at left guard, it's just got to be that they feel great about his health, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
and here's my thing. If they want to bring back DJ Humphries next year and let him be Donovan Smith, I'm totally fine with that. Yeah. My thing is, at this point in the season, football is a very human, emotional game, whether people want to admit it or not. It's not played on an analytics sheet. It's a game of people. And, Andy Reid trusts Joe Thuney quite a bit. I wouldn't say against the Steelers they really altered a whole lot of play calling to help Thuney, though. I would say they gave him a lot of chances to beat some really good pass rushers, and he did.
Yeah, no, I think this is a consensus I'm seeing a lot too, or an opinion I'm seeing a lot, where they really have they altered the play calling in those games. I don't know if it's necessarily they altered the play calling for Joe Thuney. I think you just saw the offense hit playoff gear. They needed to win those 2 games.
If it was Wanya Morris or DJ Humphries out there against Myles Garrett, they would just be leaving those guys one-on-one against Myles Garrett.
No, exactly. We saw some 3 talented pass rushing groups that Thuney had to go against. So I think there's definitely something to that scheme being whatever it was, no matter who was playing.
Here's just my thing with it. You're going into the big dance. You're not going to take your rental car. That's kind of what DJ Humphries is. If anything, he's a rental you bring in to help you win something you need. But Thuney's like a chief, man. He's one of the guys. He's been a giant part of them going from just the 1 championship at 19 to back-to-back going for a 3-peat. He's been arguably the most important piece of them turning their offensive line around from where it was at in 2020 to where it's at now. And I just think that at the end of the day that Andy Reid and Andy Heck are going to trust the guy they've been around the last 4 seasons a little bit more than a guy that's been here 6 weeks. And that's nothing against DJ Humphries, because if something happens and someone goes down, Humphries probably be the guy coming right in.
Well, the natural question off of that is, are we okay with Mike Caliendo playing left guard for the playoffs? And, that's where we maybe transition into what you looked at this week for the site, because, there was someone else who was playing left guard in week 18, and that doesn't necessarily mean, he's competing to play left guard in the playoffs, but it does bear emphasizing, I would say, that left tackle is much, much, much more important than left guard. And I think you can trust the offense that whoever is in at left guard, I think that can be covered up pretty well. Not covered up in terms of, just in terms of the scheme, in terms of, Cam Hayward gave Caliendo the business a few times in that Steelers game, and you didn't really notice it too much. There was a one time Mahomes got hit after he threw. It's one of those things where you notice it a lot more if it's at left tackle. So as long as they get left tackle down, I don't think you worry too much about left guard. But tell us about another player that was playing left guard on week 18.
And Cam Hayward does give a lot of people the business in general. Yeah. But let's talk about Kingsley Suamataia. Played 30 snaps of left guard this game, the first time we've seen him since the last time they played Denver, and it was quite the debacle with him coming in off the bench as a left tackle when Wanya went down with injury. But this, first time we've seen him play guard. They sprinkled him in a little bit at camp, but here we go. Going against a real good defensive tackle in Zach Allen. Zach Allen had a tremendous season. But we'll sit here and just real quick, he's kind of lined up Allen in like that 4-eyed look. Kingsley is going to, just come out here, hit him with a flat set, and he gets hands on first. And I think that's encouraging. Kingsley's got some long arms, man. He's got like 35 and 3-inch quarters arms. He's probably one of his biggest advantages. And, one thing that I think got lost in all this stuff with Kingsley is he does have a good grip strength. He's really good at holding guys in kind of like he is here. And he is a pretty strong dude in general. And you'll see Allen and him are kind of locked up here. They're both kind of fighting for that hand position. I'll let it play out before I go back. But really, there's just not – Carson Wentz got to get that ball off. I think Kingsley does his job. It's pretty poor on the right side there pretty poor from the right side. But let's just, go back here and look at Kingsley real quick. And like I talked about, he has the real quick, just a quick little flat set. He goes boom, boom, gets his hands on. He's got hands on. He's starting to extend. But what I really like is you see how he kind of brings this right hand around his inside hand here. This is a tremendous recovery by him because Allen's trying to push that hand off. You see he's got his ankle in the ground here. He's getting his feet locked into the ground. And now he goes and readjusts. Allen tries to do a little push-pull spin. This is a great job by Kingsley to feel that, and he puts his head right in Allen's chest, and he resets his hands, and now Allen's not in a great spot to be rushing the passer because Kingsley's underneath him with his hands on, and he's got one arm kind of over his shoulder, and he's trying to fight it off. Obviously, Carson Wentz not making things easy. It's a pretty bad rep from Wanya over there in general, but I love how Kingsley's just fighting it all the way through. And Allen gets in on the play, but this pass is just Carson Wentz fading from one side of the pocket to the other. But when you watch it all in full speed, you just see the fight and effort there. And that is definitely encouraging to see. Just wish that something else is going on out there. But from the time that this play starts till the time that it ends, Kingsley's more than doing his job for what it would be if it were a clean pocket.
No, I think you are seeing that kind of rare athleticism everyone's talking about. Not necessarily just athleticism, but that strength and athleticism combined where, he was able to kind of move while keeping a hold of Zach Allen. That is stuff you can't teach, right? That's kind of physical ability you can't teach. It's just it gets a lot more exposed out on the edge, but inside, he has a little more help to kind of not get worked around as much.
Yeah, and an important part of offensive line play is recovery. Your most athletic guys, your best players, they're going to be able to do a good job recovering. And this pretty simple basic rep here. And I actually thought Hunter Norzad, the guy playing center here, I thought he played a solid game also. I think he'll be a guy that sticks around on the team for a while is just a backup to Creed, but it was nice to see him get some snaps in here as well. What I like about this guy is tight on Kingsley. You just take a look at his initial footwork. He doesn't do anything too crazy. Just boom, boom. He pops his feet there, which is sometimes all you have to do. You don't even have to go anywhere. Sometimes the defense will just come to you when you play guard sometimes. He literally just pops his feet and then fires his hands. And he does kind of overset a little bit, but he knows. Look at his eyes, though. This is you're getting into some offensive line pass protection scheme here. He's got slide protection. So actually you see him, you're saying, oh, well, he overset. No, he's kind of looking to the B gap because he's seeing, is this linebacker or safety wearing number 0? Is anyone coming through this gap? But I also know my buddy Hunter Norzad's coming over to take care of the A gap. What's impressive about this is he's kind of just half block. He's half blocking this guy kind of, and he's gives him a pretty good little bit of resistance, and he's not even looking at him. That's pretty textbook right there. That's not gonna be put on a highlight reel or anything like that, but that is just a good way, just a great overall job, I think, of just blocking within the protection, knowing what he needs to be looking for, and then trusting himself and his buddy. And he does a good job of just kind of holding the guy off with half his body for a second there while he's waiting for his guy to come over. So I don't think you can say there's too much wrong with that rep.
Well, and when you compare it to the other side, which, they're both rookies, and this kind of shows you the physical differences, between a guy like Kingsley Suamataia and CJ Hansen, the 7th-round pick, who, definitely has a little bit of a ways to go, but just, getting his hands easily taken off and just, easily run by. Like, yeah, no, you think you're seeing with Kingsley, like why he has that, why he did have all that hype, because he has that natural grip strength, that natural, just that overall natural combination of strength and athleticism.
Yeah.
It's just the technique and the skills that need to get refined, but you can see it's the physical stuff is there, man.
No, definitely. And if you remember what we were discussing actually last night, I was talking about how like Trey Smith, he started his career as a tackle at Tennessee. He was one of the highest recruited players in college and high school football. So of course, he played tackle his entire life. He's going to. The SEC is really good at weeding guys out quickly, and as good as Trey Smith is, as awesome as a Chief as he's been, he is not a tackle. People have consistently asked me, why has Trey never played tackle? He would not be very good, just the way he kind of lumbers in and out of his stance. That's not really his thing. Kingsley didn't play that elite level of competition, though, that Trey kind of saw in the SEC at the time. BYU, he went from the independents, like Big 12 teams. He didn't see like those, guys like Jalen Carter's or like some of these elite pass rushers who have coming out of the SEC, whereas Trey Smith did, and they figured out he was a tackle quickly. So sometimes that can play a factor in it also, but when you're a big guy like Kingsley is, 6'5", long arms like that, they're going to let you run at tackle.
Right. And
go
yeah.
ahead.
Well, no, I think it's a really good point you make, because when you think about it, yeah, like if you're a freak offensive line high school prospect, like unless you're just like, the thickest dude and not have no length whatsoever, like you're probably going to start at tackle. Like they probably want to have you at tackle. Like that's just how it works. And yeah, if, Kingsley's probably always been a tackle. Like why would they ever have had him inside? It's like, get this guy at tackle, use his athleticism, his footwork, or his foot speed, I should say. But like, who knows? Like, what if he's just a really, really, really good guard? And hey, bottom of the second round, I think it's still pretty good value if they end up finding a guy that can develop into a starting guard.
So this play is botched, not like a great play by Kingsley because they're trying to set up a little slip screen. He gets stuck on the defensive tackle. But what I do like is he does just stick on and drive the guy after the play once he's kind of, realized he's not going to be able to do much here to get off of him. You'd like to see him slip off, kind of get to his spot, get to where he needs to be to try to open things up. But at the end of the day, he is like competing there, and that's still a positive rep. I like the way he fought this game, though. He was always kind of giving the guys a little bit of business after the game, doing what he could. You like to see that. That's encouraging stuff because that means the guy really does care about what he's trying to do out there.
Yeah, and you can tell he cares. It was almost, he was almost so caring about his ugly performances that, you saw him have some bad body language, kind of some bad, just kind of throwing his arms up or being, kind of, visibly upset. Like this dude, you can tell this dude wants to be a good player and understands, how talented he is. And it's probably hard on a dude to, be that talented of a guy. And all of a sudden, you come into rookie camp, left tackle, and you're just not working out as much. So, it was a good opportunity for him to get the confidence back up right before the off season.
Definitely. And I'll fire up a couple more here. But this play, it gets called back because Wanya kind of left a little bit early, but they did let it play out for the most part. And he's going against Allen again. Allen tries to hit him with a bull rush, and Allen gets him initially, but I do like the way Kingsley sits it down.
Yeah.
You see the anchor, you see the strength here. And Zach Allen's a good player. He's probably going to be on one of the all-pro teams this year. He's been maybe one of the most – he's going to be one of the most important defensive linemen, Denver has. And he's lined up wide here. So when you get these defensive tackles, they line up wide kind of in the 4-eye around the tackle there. That's because they're like trying to turn it into I'm a defensive end versus a tackle. Or they're trying to put guys in space, or they're trying to build up that momentum to get their bull rush going. But he does strike Kingsley first, and he gets underneath him a little bit with his hands. But Kingsley's already starting to sink, and he resets his hands real quick. One smooth motion just like that, resets his hands. And now Allen's like scrambling to get his hands set. Well, Kingsley's starting to sit down now. You see him reach back. He's kind of putting his butt back a little bit. He's starting to anchor those heels and ankles into the ground, and he's now holding them off. And now Kingsley's kind of like the aggressor. He's kind of stopping Allen. He gets pushed in the pocket a little bit, but look at that. He's got his hands inside on Allen there. He's the one pushing him off, and Allen's trying to still find a way to go around him because he can't go through him anymore. That's solid, man.
That's
Especially when you talk about like offensive linemen just getting stronger. Kingsley is only 21. Like he's going to get stronger, and he just took on like a full-fledged, awesome veteran of the NFL. Like Zach Allen's played a lot of years, full-grown man strength right there, and he's still sitting him down. So you have to like what you're seeing right there.
That's a very exciting rep.
It is.
And yeah, I mean, just like you just kind of mentioned how it's Zach Allen kind of trying to set up like it's a tackle versus an offensive tackle. Like, that's where you kind of see the glimpses of why he could still be a tackle where, yeah, he's just, setting, he's, countering the power. He's setting it up. At the same time, he takes that on like a guard. He really does. And I don't know, Caleb, after watching all that, I mean, do you think the Chiefs will be tempted to just, completely move him to guard sooner than later? I guess, yeah, you got one more.
I got one more. It's not so much about Kingsley. Give a shout out to the guy.
Yes, had to.
Give a shout out to the guy, Ethan Driscoll, undrafted free agent on the active roster for most of the season. He's kind of a freak athlete. He is a freak athlete. Like, he's a giant individual. Like, look how much bigger he looks than everyone else, and he's just running down the field. Like, he's got a lot to work on. I think he'll be on the roster for a while, though. I really wish they'd gotten to watch him. I really wish we'd gotten to watch him play a little bit this week, more than just like the garbage time at the end. But this was fun. And maybe Carson should have thrown the ball as well. That's what the consensus seems to be.
Yeah, he had the leverage on the defender right there, the safety. He got open. But honestly, when you think about Ethan Driscoll kind of coming on and maybe impressing the team enough to think about him in the future in the tackle position, like, as crazy as it may sound, but like maybe that's a way for them to say, okay, well, we have another guy we can develop at tackle. We feel like maybe that's why they maybe feel better about putting Kingsley at guard and saying, look, like, who knows what happens with Trey after next year? Like maybe Trey's not around next year. I'd say that's probably likely. And yeah, Thuney is not, he is not going to be around forever. So like someone's going to have to step up at guard over the next year or two.
Well, I think that's why you saw they drafted all those guys, and then
right.
Undrafted guy Driscoll, great athlete. Like you see clips of him running downfield on screens. Like that's the stuff that Andy Reid likes. I think best case for Driscoll, he becomes the swing tackle, becomes like a long-term swing tackle, maybe turn into Andrew Wiley. That would be really nice if that happened. That's pretty rare. I don't want to put that expectation on him.
Yeah.
But he's a guy that in camp he impressed me. His college tape impressed me with his size and ability and all of that. So I'd like to see him stick around next season. I think if he made every active roster game this year, there's obviously interest in him. My thing with Kingsley, though, is, they threw him in, and we did what we had to do with our analysis of him against the Bengals and against the Broncos. It was not good football at guard. But you've seen a guy now since that game in early November. He comes out in January and is playing a brand new position. He's probably never played guard before in his life, and he comes out and he looks like a good ball player against a couple of good ball players. So I don't think we're going to see Kingsley in the playoffs. I don't think it's the best time to get him introduced in. If they did put him in, that would be an enormous gamble. I feel like that would have to really pay off. That would be like the ultimate trust in two guys between Thuney and Kingsley. I think probably Mike Caliendo is your guy that you're going to let go out there and play in the postseason. But next season, if Trey Smith does reset the market for another team and becomes the highest paid guard in football like he should be, then I think that Kingsley is going to be right there in the conversation to be the team's right guard next season. And I really think that, just looking at his physical build and athletic build, he's not built so differently from Trey. He's just had a lot less seasoning, in his career so far. But that's why, he's in a good offensive line room with a good offensive line coach like Andy Heck.
No, but yeah, and to wrap it all up, I mean, the main point that, the fact that he's been a left tackle in his young career, he's still only 20 or 22 years old, He did play right tackle at BYU. But it is when you think about it, yeah, like what if he's just never played guard? Like what if no one has just ever put him at guard and no one has any clue what he'd look like at guard? And you put him at guard for, a year or so. And then, what if you're talking about, one of the more exciting young guards in the NFL? Like that's what the ton of talent he has. Like, I think that's kind of undeniable that he has that raw talent to do that. It's just whether or not it kind of comes all together. So.
And he's got the strength. And
right.
we know he has the movement.
The play strength, like the hand strength.
His big issue at tackle was just not being able to touch people and being slow out of his stance. It was never – anytime he got locked up with somebody, he didn't typically lose. Baltimore, he didn't lose a lot of snaps because their guys were just bull rushing him and he was taking them on. Now you put that – and also Andy Reid likes his athletes and guards, counter, power, all that good stuff. We haven't seen him pull. But you see the way he's sprinting down the field on opening night for Xavier Worthy's touchdown. Like the dude can move. So let's not write him off just yet. I think he does have the strength. He's still got to continue to work those hands, even on the inside, though. He still places a little bit. He needs those to be more like his boxing gloves, kind of how Trey uses them a little bit. But it's a good start.
No, I think it's we shouldn't forget about this. We shouldn't get past this playoff run and get into the offseason and forget about, Suamataia playing guard. And, I not to get too far ahead, but I could see the Chiefs kind of shoring up left tackle in a different way, whether it's a free agent, whether it's a trade this offseason. I think you could see Suamataia in that get guard competition for sure. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It could be an exciting thing to get to his potential. So glad we touched on that. Glad everyone joined us tonight. We're ahead of Wild Card Weekend. We got one more week to go until another Chiefs game, and a very important Chiefs game. We'll know the opponent next week, and we will sure be bringing you the nice part about it, I should say, is the Chiefs have played every one of these teams. So we will have a previous game to kind of go off of and maybe break down for you. Maybe look at some other things next week to get ready for that divisional round game. So we will be doing that. Appreciate you joining tonight. I'm Ron. He's Caleb. Until next time, go Chiefs. We will catch you then.